It's that time in the morning when we take a look at some of the top stories making the front pages of today's international newspapers. And joining me for a stroll through the headlines is the political commentator and activist Joseph Danquah. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's actually stay with Nigeria for the moment. It's one of the top stories that we've been following here on This Day Live. And I'd like to go to This Day newspaper. Jonathan's phone call changed Nigeria's political history. Now, this sounds a bit like a reminiscence. It's really what happened after Goodluck Jonathan conceded that he had lost to Muhammadu Buhari. It seemed to have been quite a sort of good-natured, civilised affair.
Yes, it came after he realised that he was no way he could win the election. I think 95% of the votes had already been counted. There was no way back. But there was one of his former ministers, Goodse Oribebe, had caused the scene in front of the electoral commissioner, threatening, aspersions, that sort of thing, against the electoral commissioner. And that could have sparked off a problem, big problem. But when President Goodluck called and said, I had considered defeat, it fused all tensions. And for me, in all this euphoria of this handing over and the new presidency of General Buhari, President Goodluck should be given a place in history as being a very gracious loser.
Yeah, and that is an important point that you've raised, because in this article it says that Buhari acknowledged that the incumbent president was capable of using that power of incumbency to make things difficult, but he actually pulled back. He did the right thing, and he's garnered a lot of praise for his behaviour.
Yes, I can see that, and you see, he's gone into that new club whereby the celebrated former presidents, people like Jimmy Carter and co, who have been successful after their presidencies, and I hope he becomes like that, because the story about Africa, general of the leaders, has been people who have lost elections, rigged it, and decided not to go. This starts being the story, the storyline. But for President Goodluck to go the opposite way and to concede defeat graciously is remarkable. And I think other African leaders should learn from this.
And it's interesting, though, because let's go back to the earlier conversation that we had, and when we looked at the challenges facing Mr. Buhari, because we talked about Mr. Buhari potentially investigating various departments to see how they measured up and what they did, the whole corruption thing, etc. And a real worry, as Jonathan said, that the spotlight shines on him, not him personally, but certainly the team with which he worked. Given that, if there is evidence of large-scale corruption, etc., and it implicates some of Jonathan's former officials, doesn't that really take the shine off his claims to be regarded as a member of that elite club of former presidents who graciously conceded defeat and they've gone on to do something else, and basically the mantra of greatness stays with them? Yeah,
it's true, though. But you see, the thing is that when it comes to governance, you should be seen to be fair and consistent. If General Buhari finds out the government of President Goodluck has been corrupt, he has to act accordingly. But I hope that it's done in the spirit of national reconciliation and equity, in terms of, like, it shouldn't be seen as a witch hunt, but it's seen as a way of taking the country forward, and for it to be, there should be sort of a level of reconciliation and a nation that moves forward into the next
Because that's always the problem with these issues, isn't it? That you can put people on trial, and there's a danger that it turns into a show trial, that various individuals are seen as somehow carrying the responsibility for everything that's gone wrong.
I do agree with you, and apart from not being a show trial, it also shouldn't be a witch hunt, and they should be given a fair trial. If they are found to have embezzled funds, they should be go through the due process of the law and given the necessary backing.
Sure, but as Sarah Firth said, and we spoke to her earlier, at the moment all of these issues will be dealt with later. For now, the emphasis is on this sense of a changeover, and we do actually have some new pictures which have come through. Hopefully they'll be floated through in the next few moments, really getting a sense of what is happening in Abuja at the moment. Now, I can't be sure, these are live pictures, I can't be sure if Muhammadu Buhari is on the stage. In fact, I've been told that that is him in the middle. Unfortunately, we've had a few technical problems, so the picture quality not as good as we would like it to be. But another point that Sarah Firth made when we spoke to her was that this is an event that isn't just being watched by Nigerians themselves. It's also the international community that's invested a great deal in this as well. Not a financial investment, but in terms of what they too expect from Muhammadu Buhari. And that really puts him under phenomenal pressure, doesn't it, Joe?
Yes, it does, because he's a country of 180 million, the biggest economy in Africa, large producer of crude oil. You know, it's been a major player in the African continent, in the world at large. And so therefore, you know, people want Nigeria to succeed because they believe that they could be in the forefront for the transformation of Africa generally at large. So you see, General Buhari coming to power should be seen as the vanguard of this change of the Nigeria or the African mindset about democracy. So I'm hoping that he would be a success. But as I said earlier, he has a short window to invest his political capital.
Said 6 months.
Yeah, I think 6 months will be for him to bring the changes necessary. Because after 6 months, then, you know, tongues will start, you know, wagging, and people will say, oh, has he failed or is he on track? I think he should act as soon as possible to bring the necessary change, and then he moves on from there.
Oh, but do you think, though, that there was a sense with the international community that perhaps Nigeria only became interesting, so to speak, when Boko Haram went from being this renegade group of bandits to effectively moving in on the north, taking over huge tracts of land, and then, of course, committing the ultimate outrage, or one of the ultimate outrages, abducting these 200 schoolgirls from Chibok?
Yes, the 202, that became a major news issue. You see, the story about Boko Haram and its rise started some time back, as far back in 2000, when there was a clamor for in the northern states for Sharia law, and that was when the seeds of Boko Haram started, you know, arising. And then with time, it has grown and has become a major political insurgency. What I can see now is that with the rise of Boko Haram and the abduction of these 200 girls, people then began to realize that this issue of Boko Haram wasn't it wasn't just a Nigerian issue, but had become a sub-regional issue.
Because it certainly spilt over into other countries, the neighbours.
Yes, like Cameroon, Chad and Niger. So, you know, with time, the focus now has been put on Nigeria and has become seen as a major player, because such a war, if it's not kept, could become a major sub-regional war and a proxy war.
OK, let's move on to another of the top stories that we're following here on This Day Live. You can't really get away from it, and this is FIFA. Now, we've chosen a selection of newspapers, but just starting first with The Age, Australia. And the fascinating thing, I mean, there you've got it. Australia's links to crackdown, and that's the way that this whole story has moved on. If you trace the geography, that it starts off in Switzerland with the arrests, and on the same day that you've had these arrests, you've then got the main legal prosecutors standing up in America saying, look, we've been investigating this for years. And there was a sense, perhaps, that maybe it was just confined to those two necks of the wood, and now we see that the whole thing is opening up elsewhere. So, and that's the point, the thrust of this article with the Australian press.
Yes, it's more or less like there was a network of you know, corrupt officials more or less being run, blatter at the head, like the godfather, with the others being, you know, family members, you know. And this is an Australian soccer chief, Frank Lowry. It's said to be there's $500,000 missing from the coffers, and you see it's a trickle down, or it's trickle down effect. One FA chief has been, you know, accused. Then there's a network of others, you know. So it's more or less like a network of corrupt officials under the umbrella of Joseph Blatter.
Although having said that, people have denied any wrongdoing, so we need to be clear about this. But if we move on, for example, to the British newspaper, The Guardian, now we know that Sepp Blatter gave a press conference yesterday, because today, of course, is the vote to determine whether he will retain the FIFA presidency. We cannot allow this shame to go on any longer, so I will stay. Now, I watched that press conference, and he basically said, these terrible things happen, but the bottom line is that I can't monitor everything, and maybe I need to stay to make things change, which struck, well, those remarks were greeted with some incredulity in various quarters.
Juliet, I can't understand it. This man has been at the helm of affairs for 17 years. He was before then the General Secretary of the FIFA. So he's been in that setup for basically close to over 30 to 40 years. And he's now saying that he can't monitor everyone. Yes, we do agree, but you see, the buck stops at the presidency, and he should take responsibility for it.
I was going to say that if FIFA was a company, and what that press conference was the AGM, and the shareholders had the vote,
they would have kicked him out, because it's so remarkable that, you see, the stories coming out shows that there's a big network. I mean, looking at the World Cups of 2018 and 2022.
This is Russia and Qatar.
Yes, Russia and Qatar, which then there have been accusations of money changing hands, candidates or, delegates selling their votes,
Sure.
It's a whole network. But you see, the bottom line is that now, the problem with Qatar 2022, a lot of workers have died.
And that's the point.
Yeah, the problem. You see, corruption, as I was saying earlier on in my early discussion with you, it has a trickle-down effect. One act of corruption can cause the loss of lives of thousands of people.
Sure.
And this is what we're seeing in Qatar, where even though they've got maybe, let's say, a lot of time to build the facilities, I don't know why they're rushing, and a lot of people are dying under shady, health and safety, standards, which is a problem.
Although, in fairness to the Qatari authorities, they have said, look, we have been looking at this issue. We are trying to improve things, just to give them their side, their right to reply, because they're not here. Time is running very tight, so I'm going to leap ahead. And in fact, I am going to go to the Times of South Africa. Now, Jacob Zuma has been under a lot of pressure about his official residence in Kandla. There was an inquiry last year because there were claims that he used taxpayers' money to upgrade it, and the prosecutor who investigated said that he actually unduly benefited from some of these upgrades and that he should pay them back. There was another investigation, and it seems that the police minister has basically said, if anything, there's no problem, and the property needs more upgrades.
You see, I mean, I don't see why. I think there's a flaw here. The police minister is a member of the cabinet, and he was appointed by the president. So there's no way he would go against what the president wants, because otherwise he'll be out of his office. And you know that in Africa, a lot of patronage politics goes on. But you see, this amount of money which has been spent is said to have been, it's said it can build as much as 2,400 homes.
Good Lord.
For approximately 10,000 people. That would be a family of 5. And you see, in South Africa, the problem about housing has been a major issue, because many of people within the townships live in shanty towns or makeshift houses, and which has been a major problem, which ANC has not been able to address. And I don't see why the president has not tackled this issue head on. You see, the problem with the ANC has been they failed to deliver in bread and butter issues.
But people are still voting them in, that's the point.
Yes, because you see, the problem is that, you see, the Democratic Alliance had a problem with their leadership.
But they've changed the leadership now.
So now that they've changed the leadership now, we have to wait and see. Because, you see, ANC have always presented themselves as a party of liberation, and therefore we delivered you from the apartheid, so therefore we have to get your vote. But now it's not going to be that easy. With them taking on a young black man as the leader, the face of the party of DA has changed, and therefore they're going to have a good run for their money. And
of course, you can't rule out the EFF, Julius Malema's group, the Economic Freedom Fighters. But Joseph Danquah, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, talking to you. So hopefully you'll be back in a few days to review the papers with us.
Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. You can't let us down now.